Students, let's go over the Boots of Groot. Did you know you can use lowest common denominators to remove fractions from equations? You can. We'll actually do some of this stuff throughout the year, so here's a little practice. Find the lowest common denominator of each equation and then distribute it to upgrade the equation. We're basically trying to wax out fractions. So right away, the lowest common denominator, if they're all threes, that's what they have in common. They all have threes. So what you want to do then is if you know the lowest common denominator is 3, you basically take everything times 3. Now, since they all have a denominator of 3, this 3 basically cancels all the denominators of 3. So what's left over? Well, the x is left over. A 5 is left over, and the 11 is left over. So this 3 waxes out all of the denominators, and the numerators are the only thing that's left. So we have an x plus 5 equals 11 for our final upgraded equation. Okay. Now it gets a little more tricky here because we have a 2, a 4, and an 8. So the lowest common denominator, the lowest number that 2, 4, and 8 have in common is indeed an 8. But once you figure that out, you now take everything times 8, everything times 8. So this 8 will cancel. If you have 8 over 4, that's kind of like a 2. Okay, so this will cancel, but you also take this times 2. All right, so that'll turn into a 6 eventually. If you have an 8 over 2, that's like taking it times 4 if this cancels. So we'd have a 4 times x. And then we would have a 3 times 2, which is a 6, and then we would have that equal to 17, okay? If this part was a little bit confusing, you can actually rewrite it over here on the side. So if you took 3/4 times 8, watch this. If you take 3 over 4 times 8 over 1, where did this 2 come from, you ask? Well, it's from this 4 canceling and this turning into a 2, so 3 times 2. Essentially, I did this operation just with not writing out all of the pieces, all right? Let's see here, the last one. Oh boy, this one looks dicey here. So the first thing that 5 and 3 have in common is a 15. 20 doesn't have a denominator. There's a 1 underneath it technically, but we don't always write it that way. So 15 is the LCD. Take everything times that. This one I'm going to write out a little bit more. Let's see here. If we had, I'm going to write it down here, then maybe write it above. If we had 3x over 5 times 15 over 1, that's one of our problems. And then we would have a 14 over 3 times a 15 over 1. And then that would just equal 15 times 20 or 20 times 15, same difference. There we go. Okay, so what's all going to cancel here? Let's see here. This 5 will turn into a 1. This will turn into a 3 if I reduce. So everything cancels on the bottom. 3x times 3 is a 9x. Okay, over here, this will cancel into a 1. This will turn into a 5. 14 times 5, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I have a calculator ready to go. 14 times 5 is 70, so that's going to turn into a 70, equals 20 times 15 is a big old number. It's 300. There we go. So that thing would upgrade to 9x plus 70 equals 300. All right, friends, that's about it. You want to find the lowest common denominator, then scale up the equation so the fractions go bye-bye, because once the fractions go bye-bye, your 1 and 2 step equation skills can go much more smooth like. All right, that's about it for Boots of Groot. See you in class.